Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. So first and foremost, hello everybody who uh that is here for our second workshop of the fall semester for student success workshops. Um This workshop specifically is going to be focusing on group projects. So this workshop is called How to Manage Group Projects and How to Succeed Together. We're gonna go over a bunch of things about how to do group projects. I know that at least one of you guys has had some experience with group projects or will be having experience with group projects. I've had a lot of experiences with that, and so this is kind of a way to kind of um, figure out how you can manage your group along with your fellow group members when you guys have a project or you guys have a paper that you guys have to work on together. So first off, we're going to start with by defining what is a group project. So a group project is a collaborative task where multiple individuals work together towards a common goal. This helps improve teamwork and communication skills. So like I've mentioned before, I've done a lot of group projects with a lot of my classmates in my cohort. We had one at least in every single class that I've been in, and it's honestly just a really, really good experience um, in improving teamwork skills, communication skills, and social skills, especially when you are working with other people. Um, Everyone is going to be part of a group project at least once in their life. And so the bigger question is asking yourself, what exactly does that look like? How can you all succeed together? And how can you all get that A together? Well, we're going to go along by using this scenario. So this is a scenario that we're going to kind of just like go back to every now and then. Um, And this is basically what it says. So at LBCC, Miss Christie, me, has assigned four students to a group. Katie, Regina, Karen, and Gretchen. I've assigned these students to work together on a group project where they need to create a brand. We're just going to say it's a brand. This could be any type of brand. This group decides to create a clothing store brand called Fetch. The project is due in 4 months. What will the girls need to do? How will they prepare? And how will they accomplish their project before it is due? So, this is a typical scenario that everyone will experience at least once. You may be paired up with your friends, you may be paired up with people that you don't know. Um, you may be passionate about the subject, you may not be passionate about the subject. The bigger question is how are you going to all work together in order to succeed on this project? And then how will you guys, fare while you guys are working on this project together? So just keep this scenario in mind as we go through each section of the PowerPoint. So there are three key elements when it comes to successful group projects. Those three elements are clear goals and objectives, defined roles and responsibilities, and regular communication and updates. Um, when we think about the previous scenario, right, with Katie, Regina, Gretchen, and Karen, we have four students, and how could we possibly um, apply these key elements to that group? Well, there's four of them, so they would all need to basically discuss together each of the key elements. They all need to discuss together like what are those clear goals and objectives for everyone in the group, everyone individually. What are those goals and objectives that they can come up together? What are their defined roles and the responsibilities that they're going to be assigning each other? And who would be best fit for those roles? And then also, how are they communicating with each other? How are they updating each other? How are they going to be Um, how are they working along with each other? How are they keeping each other in the loop when it comes to their projects? So we're going to go into that, but those are the three key elements of a successful group project. So setting clear goals and objectives. When you are setting a clear goal and or objective, one of the things that you guys can do is that students can consider using SMART goals. Um, Using SMART goals in a group project is a way of having everyone work together in unison while they are pursuing a common purpose. So, what does that kind of look like? Well, if we're looking at the SMART goals, we're looking at defining a shared outcome. So, all four girls are wanting to get this project done um, a month prior to the deadline, right? That could be a shared outcome. They want it done um, before the actual due date. Um, managing in SMART would be breaking into actionable tasks. So, what can each student bring to the table, and which students could do specific tasks? Who would be the best at doing those tasks and doing them well? And then, how are they going to how are they going to communicate that to each other? And that would then kind of go into A, which is assigning responsibilities. So, what student is responsible for what? Are they responsible for bringing um, the trifolder poster board, or are they responsible for making sure that their laptop is charged so they can project their presentation onto the screen when it comes time for them to present their project. Um, who is in charge of making sure that everyone all on the same page and that they all have the same information. That's kind of part of like also setting a clear goal and a clear objective. Another one would be setting deadlines, um, by 2 weeks, if whoever is doing research what um, on how to even start a clothing brand or everything that needs to be done in order to have rights to a certain name of clothing for this clothing brand. When do we need that by? When does that research need to be done by? Setting a deadline is a clear goal. That way, all students can definitely look back at what it is that they're doing. Um, and taking a look back at um, what they might be lacking in, but then also seeing how much they've done so they can, so everyone can work along together and see how they can move forward. And then T, just timing, is regularly monitoring progress. So again, that's also um, another indication of like you're setting your deadlines and for also communication. So that's how you guys can utilize using SMART goals. And um, if we go on to the next one, because I mentioned assigning responsibilities and breaking into actionable tasks, that kind of also goes into roles. So whether you kind of see it or not, there are effective team roles. Um, this can kind of be seen anywhere if whenever um, you're working in a group of with another group of students. You sometimes even like within your own friend group, or especially if you're working in office, you have a dynamic, and a group project is part of a group dynamic. So when you divide roles in a group project, this is going to ensure efficiency, and that each member is going to contribute based on their strengths and expertise. So when you're assigning specific team roles, think about who would best suit this role. So we have a leader, we have an organizer, researcher, and presenter. So let's say, for example, we'll go back to the scenario. Let's say Katie, Gretchen, um, Karen, and Regina, they all get together and they start deliberating what roles would best suit them. Um, let's say that all girls agreed that Regina would be the leader, and in this case, the leader would be the one that guides and coordinates the team. So they are kind of like the overseer. They are making sure that everyone is on task, that everything is organized, that everything is done by the deadlines that they have all created. Um, and kind of managing that. And that goes alongside with the organizer, which, let's say, for example, the girls choose to have Gretchen be the organizer in their group project. What the group the organizer does is that they manage deadlines and schedules. So they're reminding their group mates. They're reminding the group mates, hey, we planned to meet up at this coffee shop for about an hour just to see where everyone's at. Oh, we can't do that. Okay, then let's reschedule. So the organizer is managing everyone's deadlines and schedules and, proposing when everyone can meet so they can all work together. Then we would also have the researcher, which all the girls say hands down they believe Katie would be the best for researching to be the researcher role, because they gather relevant information. As I mentioned before, uh, when you guys are deliberating what team roles that each person should have, and it's based on their strengths and expertise, Katie could possibly be the researcher because she's just really good at finding the information that is needed. She knows exactly what to do. She knows exactly where to find stuff. And, she takes that role because, she is just the best out of the four of them that knows how to research things that they need. And that also could kind of go the same for presenter. So that would leave that last role to Karen to be the presenter. And what the presenter does is that they deliver the final presentation. So when it comes to presenting, the girls probably chose Karen to do it because she is really good at speaking. She um, has looked over the information well enough to know what to talk about and who to introduce in certain sections for them to talk about. And they have a presence that engages everybody, including, the teacher, when they're presenting their project. So all four of these roles, there's many roles, but these are like the four main roles um, that you would mainly see in a group setting. So all the girls are working together, they have their roles, but you know, sometimes there could be challenges. And that's something that we always have to acknowledge when it comes to group projects. So, despite there being, you might be working with your best friend, you might be working with new people that you get along with. Um, Sometimes in general, group projects can be a big challenge because there can be issues, especially when you're in college and you're taking classes. Honestly, whether you're in high school or you're in college, sometimes there's issues like uneven workloads, miscommunication, and having trouble with coordinating schedules. Those can be challenges. So other challenges that this group could possibly come across is uneven contributions. So let's say, for example, Katie, the researcher, um, she basically gives a lot of the work, she does a lot of the work, um, but she's not getting proper feedback from either Regina or Gretchen or Karen. She is probably doing too much and overworks herself. And, that can be kind of a challenge within a group. Another challenge could definitely be trust issues between group members. So let's say, for example, Katie and Regina are not on good terms. Um, they've had a past issue, and now that they're in this group project together, they don't want to communicate with each other. That kind of goes into this one here with poor communication. Let's say, for example, Regina believes that Katie is looking at wrong information, or Regina is telling Gretchen, the organizer, that, she is probably not trusting Gretchen with organizing because she is choosing different dates. that um, only benefit Gretchen and Karen. And sometimes there's also the difference in working style. So let's say, for example, Karen is a bit aloof. Whenever they come over to working, she kind of just sits there while everyone else is deliberating and they're talking about their project. And she kind of sits there because she's just like, oh, I'm just presenting. Like, I don't need to do anything else. I just need to introduce the topics and then you guys need to go ahead and talk about it. But no, that's not exactly how that would work. Sometimes um, there could be a confusion in roles. So, say for example, um, Gretchen and Regina start butting heads because Regina's not doing her job as a leader and she's not coordinating everyone to be in sync and in harmony. And Gretchen has something to say about that. And so she tries to take over that as organizer. And then it becomes this whole issue between them. And what that all can end up leading to is not only poor communication, but that can also lead to, um, having a lack of focus and missing their deadlines that they set. The lack of focus mainly being, they are more concerned about each other and their own feelings rather than trying to work together in completing this project. So sometimes challenges like that can arise in group projects. I've had my few share of challenges in the group, and I bring that up because one of the things that students should definitely um, make note of when it comes to group projects is that if there is someone that has not been cooperating, they're not contributing at all, you need to contact your instructor. So, quick little story about that. When I was in Cal State Long Beach, I was taking a class and I was put into a three-person group um, for this group project that we had for the end of the semester. Um, I basically was put into this group because the students around me were ones I always sat next to. I had been talking to them throughout the whole semester. And so, I took the opportunity and be like, you know what, let's just do a group together. Um, we talked over it a lot of times in class. We were given a lot of time in class to talk about what we wanted to do as a project. There was definitely obvious tension because one student wanted to do one thing, the other student wanted to do the other, and you have to sometimes like that mediator role, which is another role, which is what was bestowed upon me. There's that mediator role where it's like, okay, let's try to do this or this. The breaking point of this downfall was that me and the other student had talked about with this other partner that we had talked about for weeks about meeting at um, meeting at the place that we were supposed to be at for our project. And we had texted, we had called, and we all understood our communication style was texting and calling. And we all had different modes of transportation at the time, so we also communicated that as well. Later on, we find out that this other classmate decided to not show up and basically just left us to kind of be to our own devices. And at the end, basically ended up wanting to take credit over everything that we had done together. So what we did was that we contacted the professor. We explained to the professor, not only through email, but also in person. We've expressed how this student has not been contributing. There were multiple opportunities for us to work things out, but the student was being difficult. Therefore, the student ended up getting kicked off our group, and me and the other student ended up working together, and we did our presentation. We split the work between the both of us. Um, Sometimes when stuff like that happens, um, you have to kind of realize that, sometimes the other person might not take it well, but you need to be able to kind of take that stepping stone. That's that social skill in there where it's like you need to be able to not only speak up for yourself, but you also need to be able to, defend what you believe is the right thing to do. And in that instance, for me and my partner, the right thing to do was to tell the professor, like this is unfair. Like I don't want this reflecting on our grade because we had one student that was just not contributing um to the material or to the project. So that's just something to really keep in mind of when it comes to group projects. Like not everyone is going to be like that. Not everyone um is going to have a partner or a group mate that has got that gets to that point of that situation. But the steps of that are really just, talking and communicating with your group mates if you ever do have issues or you do have problems and fix it. If there is no way to fix it, then that's when you should talk to your instructor. So that's just something really important to keep in mind. So with that being said, um, we're going to take a look at two different types of behaviors when it comes to group work. So we're going to look at both constructive group work behaviors and we're going to look at destructive group work behaviors. So on this side, this is constructive group work behaviors. So that's cooperating. You are in a group and you guys are working together and everyone is on the same page. They hear everyone out. They're cooperating with each other. You guys are working together. Um, Clarifying is a constructive group work behavior because you may not understand something and um, you might not have the proper knowledge about something. So, if you're able to have that constructive group work behavior where you ask your group mates and your group mates also reply respectively in clarifying what it is that you don't understand, that's a constructive group work behavior. Inspiring is a constructive group work behavior without saying too much about it. Inspiring others can be motivating and may make you feel a bit more um, it may make you feel more belonged, or it might, you have like a lot more passion when it comes to um, working with your group because you guys are all inspired. And being inspired, creates harmony. So you guys are working um, continuously together and you guys are working well. If there's something that you don't understand or there's a setback, you guys talk it out and you guys work it out and you guys, students tend to um, work well together when that happens, when you guys are harmonizing together. Um, progress checking is also a constructive group work behavior because um, when you're checking each other's process, kind of see that as a way of having a way to talk to someone. So, say for example, one of your group mates is kind of falling behind. You ask them what's going on. You may get a response for them saying like, just a lot of things have been going on. Is it okay if you guys go ahead and do this for me? Or sometimes, oh, like I've been feeling really sick lately. Like this, I just need you to help me out with this. Can you do that? Um, when you process check, you kind of see you are also kind of doing like you're also kind of doing like ch- um a mental check on like all your group mates. Um, an example of that could be like there was this one time in my class, I actually had a really bad sore throat, to the point where I could not talk. And I had to present that same night with my group mates on Zoom, and I felt so bad. I texted them beforehand. I called them just so they can hear how bad my voice was. Um, and I communicated with them like what points needed to be made or how I wanted them to talk about my slides, either just by reading off whatever I wrote or giving them a little notepad on what I needed them to say or what I wanted them to say. that I couldn't say. So that on this side is all constructive group work behavior. Now, if we look on this side, this is all destructive group work behavior, and we can kind of um, see why. Dominating is a destructive group work behavior because if someone feels like they're dominating, whether that means being very, if they're hovering over what it is that you're doing, um, and it's preventing you from working, that can be kind of dominating. Rushing is, you have someone in your group that is telling you to hurry up because they finished their section and they're just bugging you now. Like they're not offering to help you, they're not offering to kind of give you some support when it comes to certain um when it comes to something that you need help with. Someone is just rushing you. They are wanting to get the progress done rather than have, they want the quantity over the quality of your work, right? Withdrawing. So withdrawing would be a descriptive group work behavior because, say, for example, let's say that someone is not as enthusiastic about the project and they just don't want to be there. So they just put no effort. They don't talk to anybody. They don't try to contribute to the group. Um, and they still think that they deserve that grade. There's also discounting, digressing, and blocking. Blocking is a big one because it could be, someone is doing the work and they ask for feedback, and then it kind of goes along with dominating. Someone comes in and cuts in, just like, no, 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 that's not how it should be done. Let go, you know what, let me go ahead and do it. Or, um, like you don't know anything about this, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. It's kind of that kind of behavior that is destructive to group work. So these are just some things to kind of keep in mind when it comes to group work behaviors. So now this piece, time management. Time management is also a very, very important thing to keep in mind of when it comes to group work. So like we have mentioned before, we've mentioned, creating deadlines, progress checking. Um, it's managing your time is very important for your group projects. So by doing that, you're preventing any unnecessary stress. So when you guys are in a group project, really talk about what you want done within a set amount of time, how you want it done, and to see if you all can work on it together and agree on it together. And, that's just something for you guys to work on, for students to kind of work on and to also keep in mind of when it comes to creating group projects like this. So, um, one of those tips would definitely be to create a timeline with milestones. So, every time that created, um, you guys have completed a certain section, take that time to kind of let your team know so you guys can do a quick debrief and then, continue on with working on whatever it is you guys need to do. Assigning deadlines for each task. So, keeping up with like a calendar and setting up deadlines prior to your group project being done. Um, assign deadlines um, to work more efficiently so you are not all over the place when it comes to putting everything together as a group. And then last thing is to avoid anything last minute. So sometimes, um, there might be information that you think would be that would definitely work. If you already have something put down and you and your group have already discussed it and say that it's like totally fine, if everything is the way it seems like they don't need that information, then the last thing you want to do is create more stress. Um, One of the things that I think that really helps me and my groups a lot too is that when we're done with a project, um, we would set up times um, of when to visit or when to meet up with each other so we can present on the project together. And a lot of my classmates are all on Zoom. So we assign times and we communicate with each other, like when would be like the best time to um when would be the best time to practice a presentation run before we present to the class. So sometimes that could be before class. Sometimes teachers give the opportunity for students to work together with their groups in class. Um, that's just a few things that can happen. But, avoiding anything last minute, like avoiding last changes, because if you change something in your project and you accidentally rearrange something, sometimes that could mess up the flow and it could jumble out and cause like a domino effect. So just try to avoid last minute work. Don't stress yourself out over anything else. So in conclusion, um, a well-executed group project can be a rewarding experience. And, working together, communicating effectively, and staying organized, teams can achieve great results. So when you keep in mind of, the scenario that we talked about in the beginning with Regina, Katie, Gretchen, and Karen, um, the best way for them to get a successful grade on their project, on the group project, is by them being on the same page of working together, um, communicating effectively, and having that discussion with each other on what needs to be done, what isn't being done, and doing it in a respectful manner, as well as staying organized, making sure that everything is set accordingly. And for all of you guys out there, like if you are able to do all of that, then you will have a successful group and you'll have a great experience with that group as well. Um, Remember to always ask your professor and to talk to your professor um, when there is a student or whenever there happens to be a group mate that is not contributing or is not um, helping. It's really important that you do that so your grades are not only affected, but also the morale of the group is not affected. Um, Other than that, successful groups, they are a lot of fun. Group projects are always a lot of fun to do, and regardless of whether or not you are doing it with your friend or you're doing it with new people, you're meeting people along the way. So Um, it's definitely a way to improve your social skills and your communication skills, and then also build on your team building skills. And these are skills that you can definitely use for like a long period of time. So with that, I'm concluding this um, presentation. Thank you so much for joining and for listening to me talk about group project management. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to give us an email um, over here. Give us a call at our office number, which is 562-938-5272. And then these are our office hours for the Early College Initiatives team. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.